the time when you started Makemytrip, what you're trying to say कि क्या problem solve करना है? It was not a digital era at that time.
Everyone had to go to a travel agent and pretty much be guided by what the travel agent was doing for you. And we wanted to transform the power. Instead of an agent, give it back to the consumer. Say, you have the choice. You have all the content you need. Now you make your decision. There's nothing wrong in joining a family business. Lots of people do it. But I think going through the rigors is very important. And I also think education is very important. This whole concept that education is not important in business is actually not very true. There was a movie called Three Idiots, and I said, if you really want to be successful in a startup, you might have to be a chatur and not a rancher, because your life is not going to be as exciting. Where you are going to be topping the class, the best looking girl is going to go fall in love with you. It's actually going to be doing boring stuff, almost like ratta marna, jitna boring cheese, and then doing it again and again and again.
We'll discuss about Makemytrip. You are the founder of Makemytrip, तो उस पे हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे. बट उससे पहले आई नो एवरीवन वांटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, क्योंकि जब आप सक्सेसफुल बनते हो, जब आप अचीव करते हो, कहीं ना कहीं एक प्रोसेस होता है. व्हेन यू वाज किड टिल द टाइम यू अचीव, बीच का एक बहुत लंबा प्रोसेस होता है. हाउ वाज यू एज अ किड व्हेन यू वर ग्रोइंग अप?
My childhood, like most of the people in my generation, was very different than what you guys are experiencing today. I'm pre-1990 school kid, which is pre-liberalization. So my early childhood, or almost all of childhood and early part of my teens, went in a very socialist India. So the childhood was, I wouldn't call it hardship, but now what will be called hardship was par for the course. I mean, we used to have very simple lives. The availability of any fancy product, even a Coca-Cola was a fancy product. Even cheese was always in short supply. Finding milk in the morning was always a little bit of challenge, because you had to stand in queues, and there's a good chance that you will not make it, and the store will run out of milk. So that was kind of, you grew up with things really odds against you in most situations. I mean, there were limited entertainment options, so you ended up playing a lot more sports, spending a lot more time outside, because cable TV wasn't there. There was possibly one television channel on Doordarshan, which also made that you became a lot more social, because that was the only way of killing time, making friends, spending time at friends' house, or having friends over, or going out and playing sports. So that's kind of what shaped a lot of people who were I was born in 1973, so 17 years before the Manmohan Singh Narsimha Rao combination had to free us up. And so everything from buying a cheese to buying a scooter to buying a car, if you're lucky enough or had rich enough to even think about a car, was a challenge.
Right. So tell me one thing, Keyur, I want to understand what shaped your entrepreneurial mindset.
My entrepreneurial mindset, my dad also had a small business of textile chemical trading, very small business. But born in Ahmedabad, most of the people I knew, most of them did kind of business. So, that was the kind of thing to do. Also, when you grew up in an era where finding jobs was almost impossible. I mean, there were hardly any jobs. I mean, the best jobs were, IAS was possibly the best job you could find. So I wasn't good enough to really get into IAS or do something so good. So kind of it's almost ingrained that if you'll have to do something on your own. I grew up in Ahmedabad. It's a very entrepreneurial or industrial town. Has been ever since a long time. And then managed to somehow get through college, work hard, and go to the US to do my MBA. And a lot of this entrepreneurial or startup culture was also starting at the same time when I was in the US. I mean, Microsoft was the first real company that really gave people what is now popularly called stock options or ESOPs. And, Microsoft started employees becoming millionaires was a story. That was the first time that kind of revolution started. And I was in the US in late 1994 and did my MBA. And you are kind of seeing what is happening around you. Internet was new at that point of time. And that was the real first cycle of startup boom. where the word startup really got coined. And for some reason, it was sexy, or to be part of
Yeah.
startups. And there was always, and when you're young, there's always a little rebel that I don't want to do something which is, you went there thinking, I'd like to work for a Coca-Cola or a Procter and Gamble and then make a career there. But then that mid 90s was when the real thing started. So I think partially being in Ahmedabad, and then what was happening in the US, and I was lucky to be in that time when the whole transition was happening, and seeing what is happening around you, both kind of shape your saying that one should be able to take some risk and do something on your own.
Right, right, right. Can you tell me one thing? Have you worked somewhere before, or you have joined your father business?
No, I did. I did work. I actually finished my MBA, came back and worked for what is now called Tata Motors, but was called Telco for a year. It was a very different company at that point of time, and worked there for a year. Did some work. I mean, you're like an MBA, so you go through the regular management training or whatever kind of program. But I was quite. I mean, I think the guys were very nice. I had a great boss. Everything was good, but the job was just too boring. I mean, honestly, out of 50 hours in a week, I had possibly worked for 5 hours. There's nothing much to do. So eventually, and young, you want to contribute, you want to do something. So eventually got restless, went back to the US, joined a small internet travel company in Seattle, worked there for a couple of years, and then moved back to India. Met Deep, who was raising money, who had raised money for Makemytrip.
बेसिकली आजकल के जेनजी क्या हो गया ना कि उनको उनके दिमाग में ये रहता है कि दैट कि मेरे पापा का बिजनेस है, मुझे जाके ज्वाइन करना है, अनलेस मेरा पढ़ाई खत्म होए ना होए, डजंट मैटर, आई विल गो एंड ज्वाइन माय फादर बिजनेस. ये माइंडसेट हो गया. दे डोंट वांट टू टेक अ एक्सपीरियंस बाहर जाके कहीं काम करके. व्हाट डू यू सजेस्ट टू अ यंगस्टर्स?
Yeah, देखो, there is no right or wrong in anything people want to do. Joining your own family business is equally good, but now it's up to you, or maybe your dad, or maybe who's running the family business, to see how you are groomed into the business. If you're going to just go in straight into the cabin and straight go into a board meeting, you will yourself feel out of place. I mean, because, but if you want to join your family's business, you start up, you learn the business, go through the rigors of the business. I wouldn't suggest that, if there's nothing wrong in joining a family business. Lots of people do it, but I think going through the rigors is very important. And I also think education is very important. This whole concept that education is not important in business is actually not very true. I mean, yes, you look at some entrepreneurs. I mean, you can always pick up a name of college dropouts.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll count 5 or 10 of them. But if you look at people who have done well, or spent time studying, the chances of yours succeeding are just significantly higher. So don't ignore education. I'm not a big fan. You can study whatever you want, but education or studying just makes your mind more logical and also prepares you to work hard. The pressure of an exam is a good pressure. That's the pressure you will have every day. You make choices. Even when you're studying, you make choices. You'll have to make choices all your lives. Now, if you suddenly don't give so much importance to education, or kind of ignore it and kind of thing, I think that will be a big mistake. So you have a family business, you can go through, do your hard work, go through the rigors, and work your way up. But please pay really good attention to whatever you want to study. Even if you're studying music, it's fine, but work hard in whatever you are studying. Please pick a subject which you enjoy. But when you pick something you are enjoying, make sure you work hard at it.
Right. Keyur, now tell me one thing. We'll come to Makemytrip. So, the time when you started Makemytrip, तो उस वक्त what you're trying to say कि क्या problem solve करना है public में, क्योंकि उस वक्त it was not a digital era.
See, few very important thing was that one could see how important internet is going to be in our lives. In 1998, 99, 2000, Makemytrip started April 1, year 2000. And so I think ability to be able to see what the role internet will play in the lives of people 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down was very important. And also we could see that internet would be able to solve any problem you want it to solve. Basically distribution, content distribution, it just any problem you pick up, internet was going to be able to solve. Our job was to just believe in internet and say, how do I leverage internet to solve a problem in travel? Now, travel is something I loved. I told you that geography was something I really enjoyed in school. And so even in the US, I'd worked for a couple of years in a travel startup. So came back. At that point of time, a lot of things were already happening in the US in terms of, how travel had moved online. India was in its infancy. I mean, if I remember, the numbers were so poor. There were like a few million internet connections. Most of them were still done on 56 kbps modems, modem speed, and the modems were actually installed on telephone PSTN lines. So if if you're using internet, your telephone doesn't work. So that was kind of a real challenge. Hardly any credit cards, hardly any payment gateway. So the payments system was not even in infancy, was not even born. And we were trying, everyone was trying to say, but the ability to be able to see what internet and how internet will be able to transform lives was very important. And also we stuck to solving one problem, what was travel. We were very confident that somebody will solve the internet speed issue, somebody will solve the infrastructure issue, somebody will solve the payment issues, because that's not something we did. But I think slowly the government did a lot of work. I think 2000, 2001, 2, 3, I think the government also took some big strides in changing the landscape as far as internet is concerned. The payment system was a little slow to develop, but the simple problem we wanted to solve was bring in transparency and choice to travel. I mean, everyone had to go to a travel agent and pretty much be guided by what the travel agent was doing for you. And we wanted to transform the power. Instead of an agent, give it back to the consumer. Say, you have the choice. You have all the content you need. Now you make your decision. That was the simple thing we wanted to do.
Right. But what were the biggest challenges you faced in the first year of the Makemytrip?
Yeah, there was only challenges. First 5 years, there were only challenges. There was nothing else. First was just belief that is this real or is this not? I mean, remember 1999, there was this whole big .com bust. Nicely, fondly people. And there were so many people who are happy that lots of internet companies had failed. There was a lot of investment, there was a lot of hype. And then there was this, like, the balloon had burst. And it was a big change. And 5% people were driving the change and 95% people were just outside, out of which many were just hoping that this fails because it was just too difficult for people to fathom that the world can change so fast. So belief was one. There was no infrastructure. I mean, we are talking about, not even finding a good data center in India. So we had to even host the website outside India. The internet speeds were, I mean, if you had to download a 10 MB file, it might take a day.
Yeah.
So there was no internet speed. So it was payment, like I said, mentioned about payment. So at that point of time, it was just a concept with a few test users who had some internet, somebody had belief. And then from concept, you had to actually make this into a real product and then go from this. So 2000 was very challenging. 2001, Deep had raised money from a company called eVentures, who was a VC. They were a group of joint venture between a few big names in the industry. And in 1 year, our VC decided to fold up because they joined the .com bust wagon. So in 2001, we were given the bad news that, okay, there are no more money. There was hardly any commerce. So we were not making any money. We were just at that point of time trying to actually educate people on what internet was all about, or how you can at least search for travel online. 2001, when they went bust, I think we as management took a very interesting step, and we actually bought out our VC. We raised some money by doing some almost a BPO work for an online travel company called eBookers in UK. They came and they wanted to set up a back office in India. So a couple of my colleagues moved to eBookers to set up that BPO. Myself and another colleague, Sachin Bhatia, moved to a small little office, and just with the aim of keeping the company alive. At that point of time, the market that was kind of responding was the NRIs in the US wanting to come to India. That market, I'd worked in the US, kind of knew how to, at least address that market. It was partly online, partly doing calls. But the idea was to keep the flame burning, just make enough money so that we can pay our salaries and keep our head above the water. Did it for a couple of years. Gradually, that business started doing enough, producing enough cash to pay our bills. And in 2004 and 5, I think was the point of inflection for India. And I think the biggest point of inflection in India for internet was possibly IRCTC and Air Deccan.
Yeah.
Those two were big moments. When Indian Railways actually went and decided to go online, that really drove a lot of people, forced a lot of people online. And then Air Deccan, with Captain Gopinath's vision of saying, you can fly for whatever 99 rupees or some 5 rupees or whatever he was doing. That was the other great thing that drove people. And he was very adamant that I'm not going to work through traditional distribution, but I'm only going to open on my own website. I think these two for travel were really landmark events in 2004-5. And then 2005 onwards, after these two events, we decided to come back and address the Indian market, because till then our focus was primarily the US market, NRIs coming to India, buying tickets to visit India. In between 2000 to 2005, anything and everything went wrong. 9/11 happened, SARS happened. Now we'll have a little more preamble of SARS was a mini COVID, but it was kind of limited to our part with Southeast Asia. So lots of things went wrong along that path. India went almost to war with Pakistan after the parliament attack. So India became a little point of like, should we travel to India or not? So all things that could have gone wrong possibly went wrong. But 2004-5 things turned around. And then 2005, we went back again to the private equity guys, venture guys, raised some money, and then really addressed the Indian market. And ever since then, challenging, but also rewarding. But till 2000 to 2005, it was only challenging. There was no reward.
Yeah, right. The reason I asked you this, Keyur, because nowadays what happened, I've seen many young entrepreneurs that they wanted to start a startup just because they wanted to earn money. I heard that कि startup passion से आप start करते हो.
I tell this to everyone. I said, if you think that life or startup will be challenging, fun, passion, 5% of it might be that, even less. 95% will be doing mundane, boring stuff, but doing it correctly and doing it again and again and again and again and again. I mean, whatever you find sexy in books, it doesn't mean that that's how you are going to spend a day at work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people then give up because what you had imagined, even when you join a startup, you start your own thing or you join a startup. I think if you have to be prepared and really patient to do stuff you really don't like. I mean, there was a movie called 3 Idiots, and I said, if you really want to be successful in a startup, you might have to be a chatur and not a rancher, because your life is not going to be as exciting.
Yeah.
Where you are going to be topping the class, the best looking girl is going to go fall in love with you. Yeah. It's actually going to be doing boring stuff, almost like ratta marna, jitna boring cheese, and then doing it again and again and again, and having rigor and discipline to do stuff which you don't like. That's where people give up, because suddenly, you have found, I had a different, what am I doing in a startup? I mean, and in an environment like India, there are so many regulations around us that you will end up hitting the government bureaucracy wall, some laws, time and again, and that requires a lot of patience, a lot of belief, a lot of conviction. And I think if you are patient, I would say being patient is more important than being smart if you really want to be successful in startup. I mean, we felt frustrated between 2000 and 2005, and everyone who was at MMT had an option to say, listen, let's go and work for a sexy company, and what are we doing here? I mean, I was picking up calls, working from 5 p.m. to next day morning 5 a.m., picking calls and selling tickets to NRIs for a couple of years. And then you wonder, well, are you a travel agent? Are you a call center agent? Whatever you are. But you are whatever you are. You have to do whatever it takes. And that actually then allows you to do things better as you go along. But agar wahan give up kar liya, and that's where most of the startups fail, because they don't have the patience or the energy. I mean, you don't raise money, what will you do now? You don't take salary. Do you have the ability? 1, 2 mahine, 6 mahine, 8 mahine, can you survive without a salary? Of course you can. But do you want to? And then suddenly you have an option to say, listen, I'm getting a job. I can buy a bit bigger car. Here I might have to move to a smaller car. That's just perseverance, patience. Those are qualities. And you go to anyone, go and check. Those are the qualities that will be standout qualities for success.
Right.
Sure.
Basically, I wanted to understand because I interviewed a few of the entrepreneur in past. So they told me that in the company we are mostly hiring the young people, young brains, so that it will they know what trend is going.
It's very difficult to really select people based on age. There could be a very smart 25-year-old and a very dumb 25-year-old, and there could be a very smart 55-year-old and a very dumb 55. There could be a 55-year-old who possibly is far more in sync with the trends and than a 25-year-old. I think for hiring people, you're looking for a what defining. I think 50% of the job is won if you define the job correctly, because then you know what you're looking for. The tighter the job description you make, the better your chances of hiring the right person. The looser your job description is, the chances of you not hiring the right person. So please work very hard in describing what you are expecting or what is the job.
Right.
What kind of candidate are you looking for? And once you have those two in mind, just try to get a candidate closest to that. So rather than getting into distractions like age and stuff like that stuff, I mean, I see no reason why a 55-year-old can't do something which is very trendy, and I can't see why a 30-year-old cannot do something which is far more responsible or needs so-called experience. So I would rather focus on job description, expectation from the candidate, and then go from there.
Right. Agree. But do you think कि in this competitive market आप कुछ भी start कर रहे हो, if you are starting some business, there's already someone big player in the market, already existing player in the market. So उसमें हमें कैसे पता करना है कि क्या प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना है?
This is a very old product differentiation or cost leadership are the only two ways to win business. It doesn't change today. Okay. Can I do this better than someone else? Better in terms of either efficiency, quality, whatever. Or I have a product which is different. I have a new product which will be a disruption. So either I do the same thing but better, or either have a better an idea of a new product which will sell. Now either are you going to make a new iPhone, which actually is a camera but calling it a phone, which is a new product, or are you going to do something which someone else is doing, like Makemytrip possibly did something which travel agents were doing, but doing it in a better and more efficient way. Anyone who wants to do something has to have a test for that what are they trying to do. Are they trying to improve on a process or improve on a product, and what is this improvement? Quality, efficiency, cost, whatever it is. Or are they really bringing in a new product which they believe people will buy into? That is, I mean, there was no need for a camera to be in the phone when iPhones were invented. Then somebody saw that possibly instead of that phone, camera will be the most important part. Nobody now uses the phone, but we still call it a phone. But now it's possibly a computer, but we don't call it iComputer. Yeah. We just call it an iPhone. So that's the way. And be very hard, work very hard on that. That what are you doing? And once you get that, then possibly it will guide you through your entire journey, because then you have a mission. I'm improving something efficiency. Then you can, and please be data driven, metric driven. If you say that I'm going to be more efficient than others, then please track your efficiency. Find your own metrics, put the numbers on the board, and rigorously see, are you really working towards your goal? If it's a new product, it's a new innovation, just keep testing it out with consumers. Just go out and talk. Don't be shy in going out and talking. Please, the most new product requires a lot of interactions with the consumers, and you don't have to believe the consumers, because you won't always get the right feedback, because they also don't know what you're talking about. But if you're doing something new, please be brave enough to just go out and talk about it, get real feedback. Don't take feedback from friends and family, or don't limit yourself to say, okay, I knew he doesn't know much about it, so let me not ask him. She will be a better person. Don't judge.
Right.
Just spend more and more time and be open to feedback. Necessarily not for feedback you want to hear, but when you do that, you just keep improving.
Right. Yes, Keyur, let's just come to a ending note. Give advice to all those young entrepreneur, young startup founder, how they should go ahead in their life.
Yeah, please don't become an entrepreneur, or don't do a startup for the heck of doing a startup, because it's not necessarily that, oh, I want to do a startup because it's cool to do a startup. work hard on having an idea, whatever is your idea, whichever is your field. Like I said, if you can do something better than someone else, or if you have a new product, and if that excites you, that motivates you, and you're willing to really stay with that idea for a long term, don't drop the idea. You, from that idea, you will, how to do it will keep changing
Right.
time and again, again. You'll get a new way of doing it. You are trying to solve problem through one way, you'll get another way. So please try to find many ways to solve the problem, but don't go away from the problem. The biggest the thing people do is that they work with an idea, and in 6 months just say, oh no, maybe we should do something totally different. Now, rather, I would advise them to stay with this idea before they start investing in real resources in the idea. Once they're convinced, stay with the idea. Please be open to changing how to solve the problem, but don't find new problems every time.
Right. Agree. Yes. So, Keyur, thank you so much for joining. It's our pleasure to have you on my podcast, Keyur. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, Keyur.
You too.
As we twirl in the magic of the cosmic light.